One of the things that I am finding in talking with women who are, in the perimenopausal and menopausal stage of life, and talking to them about navigating this really complex journey, one of the things I'm noticing lately that's coming up over and over, really, especially in the last couple of years, is that they're now finding themselves in a position of having this added responsibility of caretaking for their elderly parents. And that by itself has its own set of like unique challenges and lots of emotions, right? And so I find myself in helping them navigate this transitional period of menopause, also addressing a lot of the struggles that come with caretaking. And I really think it's an important thing for us to acknowledge and talk about, because managing and navigating that time is crucial for your overall well-being. And there's no denying that it comes with its own set of complications. It really does. And so I wanted to talk with you today about how this being in this situation, caring for elderly parents, can really affect us as women in menopause, And I thought I would share a few tips to help. If you find yourself in that situation, these are a few tips that I have incorporated in coaching women. And yeah, I'm coaching them on their weight loss journey and on their health journey, and they have lots of different goals. But part of dealing with those struggles has to be also kind of managing your way through this very real challenge of now being put in a position of kind of taking over this role of being responsible for parents. And sometimes the situation is a very temporary kind of, parents have gotten ill, or maybe they've had a fall and they've had surgery, and so it's a temporary period during recovery. And unfortunately, more and more, I'm finding that sometimes it's not temporary. It is a long-term caretaking situation where parents have had to move in with them, or there's a terminal situation, or parents are struggling with dementia and, more serious but long-term health care challenges. And so it can be very taxing. And it's also a situation that I'm realizing more and more is so complicated because there's this range of emotion. Of course, the women who I'm helping and anyone put in this situation, of course, they want to help their parents, but they also find themselves in really difficult day-to-day kinds of situations that oftentimes they don't know how to navigate. Oftentimes it's an emotional roller coaster. It's really difficult to see their parents declining mentally and or physically. And sometimes too, there's the very real resentment that can come up with being put in this situation. And that creates its own conflicts, right? Because they are helping their parents maybe sometimes they get angry or they lash out at the child, and then you get angry at your parent. And so it's this vicious cycle of this emotional roller coaster. And so let me talk more specifically about some of the challenge that I'm seeing women face. One of them is just the increased stress levels. I mean, juggling the demands of menopause and all of those related changes, that's difficult in itself. But then you combined that with juggling the demands of caretaking responsibilities for your parents. And a lot of times these women are still working full-time themselves. They're planning to face retirement, but they're not there yet. So they have a full-time job, and menopause is, making life seem out of control, and then add in caretaking responsibilities for their parents. And the stress levels just go through the roof. And that impacts you physically. It impacts your mental well-being. Time is also another huge challenge when you're put in this position. The time and energy required to caregive for parents. And of course, depending, the levels of that is dependent on what the situation is with your parents, right? But that the time and the energy, no matter what the situation is, it's maximized. I mean, it increases, right? Oftentimes by like tenfold, it feels like. And that can limit the opportunities for you to give time for yourself, for self-care time. And so I find that oftentimes women will struggle with their own nutrition, finding time to eat healthy meals, finding time to move and to exercise, finding time for adequate rest. I mean, if your parents are living in the house, or even just one parent is living in the home with you, and maybe you even have help with their caretaking during the day, but at night you come home from work after all day, you help your parent get into the bed and get them settled, and then maybe they need to get up multiple times a night to use the restroom, or maybe they have to have medical attention, to take medicine, those kinds of things. And so oftentimes I'm finding these women are getting up and not getting adequate sleep. And so time to just take care of yourself properly gets limited. And women that I work with, you're nurturing women, you do the things that you need to do and take care of loved ones. And so you've kind of gotten to this midlife period, and instead of taking care of children, now you're taking care of parents. And once again, you're having to put your own needs on the back burner. There are only 24 hours in a day, right? There's only so much you can get done. And so it's like making the choice of where can I eliminate time to make time for now the added responsibility of caretaking for a parent. It's hard. The emotional toll, I talked a little bit about that at the beginning of this episode, but witnessing the aging process of a parent can really trigger your emotions. It's a roller coaster. It is taxing. It is so difficult. And these emotions get more and more intensified as maybe they decline, or it's already an emotionally charged menopausal period or perimenopausal period that you're in, and then that just gets, like I said, intensified as you're having to watch your parent go through this very difficult process. And again, depending on how serious whatever is happening, however serious that is, that emotional toll can go from just being really intense to making you feel like you don't have another nerve, you don't have another tear, you don't have another ounce of energy to worry and to handle everything. And so the challenges are enormous. Things felt insurmountable oftentimes before that, and now they feel completely out of control. And so let me move to giving you some tips, because this is the reality for so many women in this midlife period. And we're at the age where our parents are elderly and they are facing oftentimes very serious struggles at that stage of life. And so, like I said, more and more we're finding ourselves in this position, and I'm definitely finding more and more of my clients dealing with this. And so it's kind of been this unexpected sort of challenge that, in working with women through menopause and weight loss and self-care kinds of struggles with nutrition and their own exercise, I've come to realize that this is becoming more and more a part of that journey. And so I've adjusted my own coaching to help these women and support these women in ways that I can to help them navigate through that, because it is part of their journey, right? And so, number one, I would say that if you didn't already emphasize the importance of your own self-care, you have to be intentional about carving out dedicated time for that. Now, of course, that's going to look different. And it doesn't mean that, oh, you need to take your hour to exercise, in which you don't need to be taking an hour for exercise each day anyway. But I'm not saying put yourself in a position and do this unrealistic thing of, setting aside your parents' caretaking for doing this. But you do have to remember that you have to prioritize your own self-care, because if you go down, then who is there? Let's just be realistic about it. Who's there to take care of your parents if you're not taking care of yourself and you get ill too, right? So there has to be some attention to carving out that time, no matter if it's 15 minutes a day, no matter if it's, an extra 10 minutes to pack your, whatever it is, you've got to do that. And there are ways that I help clients to figure out those very real obstacles of limited time, right? The second thing is, I really work with clients on having a flexible movement plan, a flexible exercise time, or a plan for exercise. And I really think that's important. If you are struggling with this added caretaking responsibility, you've got to find some help with getting exercise routines that are tailored to accommodate your busy schedules. Your already busy schedules are now busier, right? And so you need very short, very effective workouts that can be integrated into your daily life that will help you to continue to promote your physical well-being without overwhelming time commitments. And no matter how short that exercise plan and time is, you really need to make sure that if it's only 15 minutes or 20 minutes, a couple of days a week, which is exactly what I do with clients, they work out 3 days a week, 20 to 25 minutes. In order for that to be worth that amount of time, in order for you to get something out of that short amount of time, only 3 days a week, it has to be designed so that it is extremely effective. I focus on creating metabolically focused, hormone balancing workouts for women. That's why they can get away with just, 3 days a week. But you've got to have a flexible exercise plan. You can't just give up movement. The third one is, you have to have a nutrition approach that is, of course, designed for your goals. If that's weight loss, fat loss, if that's strength, if that's improved health, whatever it is. But within that plan, you also have to make sure that your nutrition approach is built for energy. You are going to need fuel for your body and your mind during this difficult time of taking care of not only yourself and your own needs, but also a parent or both parents. And so you really got to have help with how to incorporate foods that are really rich in the nutrients that are essential for you to have not only health, but really fuel your energy. And of course, the impact of hydration on your overall well-being is going to be vitally important too. But that's number 3, and a nutrition approach that helps with energy. The fourth one is, you have to have mindset, mindfulness strategies that are specifically designed for coping. Mindful strategies, techniques, coping strategies, however you want to think about that, will help you with coping and managing stress. And there are a variety of those kinds of things that I help clients with. And of course, it depends on what your individual situation is, but anything from, it can be breathing exercises, journaling, it can be support, a support system through community and private kinds of groups. But those are just some examples, but you have to have really intentional coping strategies for managing strategies, managing stress strategies. And oftentimes the women that I'm working with are, in addition to working with me and getting those really intentional kinds of strategies to manage the stress, they're also working with a counselor or a therapist. And the benefit of that cannot be underrated. Working with a counselor or a therapist is such a valuable tool, whether you're dealing with caretaking for parents or not. I really believe in that. But those are things that I would encourage you to be very intentional about seeking out in terms of mindfulness strategies. The fifth one is, I help women in menopause really navigate and create realistic expectations. What is realistic in those caregiving roles? Setting expectations for themselves that they are able to hold themselves to that standard in a very realistic way. It is sometimes difficult, but it is vital for us to recognize and accept limitations and to seek out support when we find those areas and we know that we need additional help, right? And understanding that perfection is not the goal. A perfect example of that is when a client is really, really struggling with, for example, caretaking for a parent over the nighttime hours. And they work all day, like I talked about earlier, and then the needs of caretaking during the nighttime, the sleep time hours, have increased to the point that it's really beyond their scope of either expertise because of the medical kind of situation, or they're just simply not getting the rest that they need to be able to fulfill the expectations that are held for them at work, their roles and responsibility at work. And let's just be realistic. I know that oftentimes what we immediately think of when we talk about needing additional support like that, we might say, well, but I really can't afford to hire someone to come in at night. And financial constraints are certainly understandable. They're real, right? But having someone help you with recognizing what is a want versus what is a need, and at what point do you have to accept the fact that I want to take care of my parents has now gone to a level of I can't expect that it's realistic to do this anymore. And one thing that you may have to face, and this is just an example of looking at these expectations that you're holding for yourself and being realistic about it and making a decision as to when more support is needed, is if you can't go to work in the morning and you can't fulfill your role at your full-time job, and you're not in a position financially for you to quit that job, or you're not able, your role doesn't really allow for you to scale back your hours, for example, or you can't retire yet. If you can't fulfill that full-time responsibility, then you're not going to be able to continue in that role. And if you need that full-time income, you see what I'm getting at here? You can't afford not to hire some help, even if it's part-time overnight, if not getting sleep is keeping you from being able to do what you need to do at work. Okay. So I know that is a really difficult one to navigate, particularly by yourself, because again, it goes back to all of the emotions that are wrapped up in that. But that is something for you to consider, and getting help with how to objectively think through those challenges and have guidance in making a decision is a really valuable support piece. Another thing is really being part of a supportive network. And that can look a lot of different ways, but I encourage clients to have a strong support network. That can be friends, it can be family, it can be outside community kinds of support groups, online support groups. Definitely, our clients have a private community where many of them have shared experiences. Many of the women that I work with are in the position of caretaking or know that they're going to be. And so they're preparing themselves mentally and otherwise to step into that role because it's inevitable. That is going to come. And so them having an opportunity to share those experiences, lean on each other, that really provides an emotional relief. It provides practical assistance because they exchange tips and experiences and what I've been through, and they can offer each other ideas for, ways to get support and places to get support and different ways to navigate these challenges. And then they also have the support from me and from success coaches on my team. And so building a really strong support network that is multi-pronged, not just your best friend to talk to or not just your partner, but having multiple different ways that you can look to support at different times is extremely important for you. And the other thing is, I think, number 7 on this list I'll include is, professional guidance. And this goes back to having someone like me, a coach in your life who can advise you, who can consult with you about things, having healthcare providers that you can go to professional consultations with to get really personalized advice on how both to manage your personal journey, weight loss, menopause, self-care, mindset, nutrition, exercise, all of those things, but also professional guidance and helping you manage and navigate the caregiving responsibilities that you now have added to your plate. And that can include discussions about your exercise, about stress management techniques, about overall health assessments for both you and for your parents. I have clients who have been moved into that role of taking on the responsibility of caregiving. It has added stress to their lives. It's one of the things that maybe when we have our initial consultation, we talk about that being one of the pieces of help that they're going to need in my program. And through them working through our 12-week MRS program, they have, in fact, been able to help their parents who are living with them get healthier, attend more to their nutrition, attend to some movement. And it's really empowered them to feel like they're navigating the stress in a much better way. They themselves are improving and getting help with how to improve their own, their weight loss journey and their stress management and their mindset and their nutrition and all of those kinds of things. But at the same time, their parents have kind of jumped on board a little bit, and their parents are finding that they have a little more energy. Their parents are getting invested in their journey, and they're doing things like, making meals together and talking about the health and nutrition. And so it's really helped to boost their parents in a lot of ways, energy wise, but also mindset wise. The parents are enjoying being involved in the process. And so really, I think today I wanted to talk with you about it's an added burden. It's one that we welcome and we love our parents and we want to be able to do it, but let's not ignore the fact that it is taxing. And really, by addressing those kinds of challenges and implementing some really practical kinds of tips, you can be empowered in menopause to not only navigate that kind of complex journey, but also navigate how to balance that journey along with caregiving. So your own self-care doesn't go by the wayside, but you also can foster not only your physical health, but promote a positive mindset in yourself and potentially in your parents. Increase your confidence about living your own life in a healthy way and contributing to helping your parents live in a healthy way, taking care of them through this difficult transition that they're making too. So I hope that's helpful for you guys today. If you are finding yourself in that position of taking on added responsibilities for caretaking with parents, I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what it is that you're being challenged with. What is it that maybe came as a little bit of a surprise on this journey? And I'm just here for you to chat, someone to talk to, an open ear that's not involved in the situation, right? And sometimes just having someone to chat with about something can make it feel less difficult. So I'm here for you. My inbox is always open. And as always, thank you for spending time with me this afternoon. And I'll see you right back here next time.